It is the 7th of June, 2025 for Devil Walk. It is still the 6th of June, 2025 for me over here in Austin, Texas. And this is the All About Counter-Strike podcast, episode 15, live from the Blast TV Austin Major. Devil Walk, right now it is 7:03 p.m. for me, and it is 2:03 a.m. for you the
Yep.
next day. You've had to stay awake. The Tyloo game finished like 40 minutes ago.
Yeah, something along those lines. I've been trying to pump myself with caffeine, but you know how it gets when you're tired. Pump
Yep.
yourself with caffeine. You kind of get tunnel vision. You feel a little bit like a zombie, even though you're energized. So definitely, uh, I'd say I'm hanging in there, and hopefully I'll have enough energy for the entire episode. But so you'll have to bear with me if I'm
Yep.
rambling. I'm doing something wild. That's
I
why.
might just tell you to shut up every now and again, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'll corner you every now and again. What have you been up to though, mate? Because obviously I've been flat out. It's been non-stop of Counter-Strike major action, all of this stage one stuff. But how's your life been?
No, it's been good. I mean, I've been trying to, obviously have my life together. I've been, went shopping. I had my girlfriend was ashamed of me watching Counter Strike, driving this cart around when we were grocery shopping.
Well, you had it
So
on the
trying to
laptop. I'm on
fill,
the mobile.
yeah. So I've been trying to fill, pretty much every bit of my life with watching the streams, been watching the content, been trying to follow as
Mhm.
many games as I possibly could. And yeah, just trying to keep up, do everything like that. But I've done some stuff with my apartment. So my girlfriend's
Oh,
parents came by. We've been
yeah.
doing it this morning and throughout the day. So new lamps, gonna fix my PC setup, do some arms for all my monitors, so I can kind of
It's actually running now.
position.
Is it all
No,
set
it's
up?
not. It's not up
Ah,
yet. It's up tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll do
okay.
that. We've been doing something with the concrete on my balcony, so we can set up like curtains and stuff like that. For so we've been drilling in that during the
This
day
is this
and
is
setting that
true
up.
family life.
Yeah. So
Damn.
yeah, some changes, and then we've hid everything from this camera angle, so all the junk is just on the sides. But yeah, it's been good. It's been
It's
good.
kind of like what I did. It's kind of I hid my camera angle as well. You saw this
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
I put
exactly.
the thing. We got Lily on one bed. By the way, they gave us this is crazy because just everything's bigger in Texas, right? There's two queen size beds. So if my wife ever just decides she's pissed off with me, I'm sleeping on my own. She has her own bed. But also all the snacks and all the food is on one bed. All the mess is there, and we just cleaned up behind me to make a nice camera angle for now. So that's how we're
Exactly.
rolling. Um, bro, this is a crazy situation you put me in as well because my producer Ivan for today and Devwalk told us turn the aircon off. I'm just going to tell you how hot it is outside right now. It is currently 33 degrees here in Austin, and you've told me to turn the AC off. So you're worried about being tired. I'm worried about melting. I am AC-less for the recording, so it sounds good.
Yeah. Well, we're both gonna have to hang in there for a little bit as we run this episode.
Mine's a bit
Should
easier
we
than
actually
yours, all
start
things
going through
considered.
some of this stuff?
Yeah, yeah, I won't keep you too long on this. The first thing we need to do is looking at some of the recent news that's come out. Obviously,
Yep.
Starladder is the next major after the Austin major, and Starladder MRQs. Now, the MRQ dates are great. All happy about that, right? To a degree, does clash with some events, but there's a few problems here. So I'm gonna look at Graham Pitt's first tweet that he put here. He said,
Yep.
"What an absolute shit show scheduling." Oof. This now blocks teams from attending Thunder Pick World Championship, 850K event, CAC Championship by Perfect World, 400K event, Rubeck Cup, $1 million event, and Mesa Nomadic Masters Full, 250K event. And teams and their respective tiers will only find out 8 days before if they can play it or have to drop out slash find replacements. That is awful.
Yep.
And obviously the scheduling and stuff is approved by Valve, yeah? So someone at some point is approving VRS events like Thunderpick, CAC, stuff like that. And then they're also then putting the MRQs in there because obviously you need to qualify for the major. And then just to add more insult to this, right? Fanatics community manager, Andreas Sammy, he says, very disappointing to see that the MRQs will be held online again, both from a viewer and game integrity perspective. The MRQs are among the best tournaments each year from a viewer's point of view. Such big emotions and so much on the line for both players and organizations. We've spoke about that as well.
Yeah, we
Then
both
our
agree on
favorite,
that.
completely. Then our favorite Ash. His is quite long, but I'll read it all out because I'm going to give Ash the flowers he deserves. Online qualifiers are creating circumstances that aren't replicated on LAN, as well as having completely different setups for each teams and every organization responsible for their own technical fixes instead of experienced admins. That doesn't even take into the account the integrity issue of not policing what impacts some coaches are having, and if teams are cheating to potentially make millions. Why wouldn't cheaters do this? We spoke about it with him on the podcast,
Yep.
right?
It's
It's bloody
definitely
horrible.
a valid question. I mean, the people have cheated for a lot less. Let's just put it that way. History has shown.
Shown us in a terrible way. Then
Yeah.
the RMRs were the most emotional, intense events of the entire year, and we binned them for terrible online streams and to send the best online teams to a LAN environment. Get rid. The game is growing, not shrinking, so let's maybe treat it that way. I had a conversation with someone while I was here at the Austin Major around
Yep.
the MRQs and just qualifying online. And nearly every team or player or someone I spoke to qualify for MRQ agreed that they would rather have it on LAN. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's the sentiment is for even the ones that have already qualified, have gone through this online thing, they would prefer to have it on LAN. Um, and then the other side of it was like, okay, but we understand it's going to cost tournament organizers money. Obviously, I just said Valve should put more money in and Valve should like enforce this. Some people don't agree with that because they were saying, well, Valve's very hands off, that they've always been that way with Counter Strike. They don't make these kind of decisions, but they are the only ones that can force it. I
But I
understand it from
also,
Starladder and Blast perspective. It's cost a
yeah.
lot of money if you put it on LAN, but like now I'm worried because I was so pushing and saying if the last MRQs were online, then the next ones have to be on LAN. Obviously, no one's enforcing it, no one's changing anything. So I will bring that conversation up to Valve when they come here to the playoff stage of the Austin
But don't
Major
you?
and see what their perspective is. I'd love to get the info.
Yeah. No, I totally agree on that. But I also think like one of the things that, because it's like an MRQ right online, and not
Yeah.
the RMR, it kind of feels like they've wasted the opportunity to make the major a great. Like they've increased the major, right? The participants, but right now it kind of feels like they've pushed the RMRs into stage one.
Stage one. No,
So
no, that's exact. By the way, when I was hosting, I almost blundered that as well because I was just
yeah,
sometimes, I think I said at one point, stage one feels like an RMR.
yeah, it just feels like an RMR, and
Yeah.
it kind of, I don't know.
Like a
It
global
kills
RMR.
the achievement for the teams that make it to stage one to some degree, as well, because it just feels like every other viewer, they've gone through the history, they have this longevity of watching majors and big events. That
Yeah.
for me as a viewer, it just feels like okay, they haven't quite made it yet. You know, in a weird way, that's
No, I
how
agree with
your
you.
brain kind of connects it. Um,
I fully agree with you.
so so I think it's like it's like a bad situation for everyone in that sense. And
Yeah.
you know, I think a lot of people obviously should be proud of making it to stage one, and it just feels like you're getting tricked into thinking in a weird way they didn't. I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain it really, but that's how I it kind of feel like it becomes.
Yeah, it's become, I guess, a different style of major, obviously with more teams now getting stickers in. And
Yeah,
I don't know until we get to the end of this current major and we understand like what money's been made from it, how that kind of dilutes, will it take away from sticker sales and stuff like that? Um, but I do think in some ways that it's like we we still have a situation where players who can fight and can make some of the games have been very exciting here. Like
yeah,
we would have had even more excitement at these MRQs and at these LAN events, which I think would have just benefited the game and benefited everyone. And the big thing, like I know Blast took some of the footage where teams have recorded footage of the other team that qualified for MRQs. And it's like, great, we got to see some of that. But we didn't see hardly out of all the teams that were in this stage one, there's what,
yeah, but
maybe
it's
six teams that had footage like that.
It's kind of like you see the videos on repeat no matter where you go. Like they're just pumping it into your face. They're talking about I can't even remember, but I know I've watched broadcasts where they haven't even talked about that team and showed the picture of like heroic and video footage of a heroic just winning and qualifying for
Yeah.
the major. It doesn't really fit. You know, they're talking about FlyQuest, and all of a sudden you see heroic shouting by their pieces in the broadcast. Just didn't really make sense. It's also like you weren't really there watching it. You don't have that core memory of like I watched, Nemiga
I saw
qualify.
this live.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah,
this
but we
live. I
spoke about
saw
this,
the
right?
game. I felt the
Remember
importance of
when
it.
remember when we used to just like you get to the challenger stage, right, of the major, and you
Yeah,
see all the videos and all the excitement moments, the qualification interview, for example, stuff like that. That was all there, and it's story driven, and we are an entertainment product, and there are stories, and there is so much on the line.
yeah,
And I know we already spoke about it to death on the podcast, but I do want to try and get some answers when I'm here in Austin. At least I do know that all the teams that came through the previous MRQ, they'd agreed that they want it on LAN as well. Um, and obviously the sentiment was the same online
yeah.
from teams, from community managers, from heads of
But it,
esports,
it, it
whatever.
kind of just
So
feels like, it's like when you're talking about food, like there's smell, there's taste, there's,
yeah,
how it's presented and all that. And it feels like you just have one of those ingredients and the rest are just gone. So
yeah,
it feels like weak in a way that you get it
it's like
this
it's
way.
missing that extra bit of
Yeah, yeah,
spices,
yeah.
the
Just
extra flavoring.
everything contextualized is what makes it, right?
Yeah. All right, let's go on to looking through the stage one and what we saw there, right? So
Yeah,
the teams that qualified in the end, Bait and Heroic, they went through 3-0. Heroic, I think that was very much expected. They played like they should, even if they had some moments in maps where they were a bit more shaky,
yeah,
even if they slowed down. I did an interview with some Pius, and he was saying, like, in the first map, in the first game they had in the best of ones, Chinggis Warriors had a great start on them. They saw the problems of like it took them a while to wake up. They spoke about what was needed going into the second game. They got that clean 2-0 for the opening day. And this team just, even if they were behind, even if they were not quite there, they were snapping back into it. They were looking so strong. And I even, from the performance I saw there, I have no doubt that they will make it through to stage three.
no, I think they're looking, or they set themselves up in a really really good position. I think one of the teams as well, like Bait, they can definitely surprise and make it through to stage three. I think even OG, they surprised me a lot. I thought they were great. They showed some great performances. Chrisen was, immense for being an in-game leader. I think the Swedish
And so
guy spoke.
young.
Was also, obviously
Oh,
Niklodos
wait a
with
sec. What do
amazing.
you call him?
I call him
What do you
Spoke,
call him?
but
Ah, yeah, we've been calling him Spooky.
I know, but like I don't know what he prefers because I played with him in
I'll
like
find out
Swedish
because I
Pro
didn't speak
League
to
like
him.
a long time ago, and then
Mhm.
everyone called him like Spoke. Um,
Okay.
but that in Swedish,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
so it's not it's
Not
it's
the
not
English
really
way
the
of doing
same.
it.
So I don't know exactly what the English caster translation would be or what he's fine with.
Yeah.
But we can keep it to Spooky so we have some
Yeah.
consistency with the broadcast. But I was impressed with him. I thought he's
Spooky.
like Spooky was like really good with taking space. He was mature in the way he was taking it. He wasn't rushing. There was a lot of maturity in the way they played Counter Strike, and I think the whole squad,
Mhm.
showed glimpses of why they deserve to be there and could even had potential to be in the 3-0 bracket.
Oh,
But
definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. I'm gonna
so I
say this
think
about Nikodos.
yeah,
Remember I told you on one of the previous episodes, he is a fraud AWPer, yeah? He
yeah.
continues to be a fraud AWPer. He is better with the rifle than he is the
He
AWP, but he did say that, like, this is the first team that's helping him buy into actually, like, if he wants to use the rifle, use it more, not relying on that AWP.
in Sweden we call it hobby.
Hobby
Um,
AWPers, yeah, I remember
yeah,
that phrase.
yeah.
The
So
casual
he's definitely a hobby
AWPer.
but it's one of those things where a hobby is actually the best way to be an AWPer on some maps. Because, like,
In
if you look at
CS2 maybe.
Inferno, no, well, no, just in general, like, just some maps are built that way. Like, if you're
Mhm.
starting T side on Inferno, for example, it's much better to actually have a hobby hopper that's great with rifles. They can take the space, they can fight that banana, and whenever CT is dropped off, you just pick it up and play it from there. But you're not wasting money on actually purchasing it, because
Yeah.
I think you get into a gun round and you have like let's say you have like 5.5, you're buying an op, you buy armor,
Mhm.
and that's it. You know, you don't have any utility. And utility is so important for both sides on that map. So it's actually better in a lot of cases to actually play everyone rifle if you can't
Yeah.
have the full utility. Um,
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
because that banana
To
fight
look
and everything is so important. So
to look at some of the other teams we had going through as well. Namiga and BetBoom. I think a lot of people from the name value of the BetBoom players would expect them to make it. I think they did better than I expected in some games. It was good to see them make it through. Namiga, this
Amiga
was a
surprised me.
surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. They learned their lessons from Shanghai. They've improved as a team. They found a bit of like a winning formula of how they want to approach things on LAN. Lear
Yeah.
hyping them up has been a big talking point. Like when they beat FlyQuest, Namiga guy Lear stood up and was like, silent or silence or something. He was telling them to be quiet because they 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 proved that they were better. They proved that this is a team that
Yeah, and I mean,
has
they
got some more
started with a
fight in
rocky
them.
start as well. They started zero
Yeah.
one, and they had to fight their way up and won 3 games in a row. So, I mean, all credits to them. It's not an easy path to take. But yeah, I was super surprised with them. I didn't think that they would have the stability to kind of make it through. There was
No.
some teams that I definitely thought were stronger if you look at wildcard or complexity going into the tournament. So
Mhm.
definitely well
From
deserved,
there
and they should have their praises.
because we don't need to talk so much about the teams that qualify, I'm just gonna go through the names on it. Ty Lue's way of doing it at the end, getting beaten on your map pick, and then absolutely destroying FlyQuest for, like, the 3rd series in just a couple of months of playing, because
Yeah,
they played at some events out in Asia as well. Ty Lue just being the dominant force. Um, Jam Young, he's like
that ace.
Chinese John Wick. The way he was playing with that USB was crazy on Anubis. G is just probably the best interview of all time because
Probably
his English
go
may
to
not
the
be
interview.
perfect.
I was watching it here, and it was so wholesome. He had like a 3 minute hug
I
with
love him.
Moses, and then just like you're playing M80. It's like who? And he just didn't understand who they were talking about.
No, he didn't get it. He didn't know what was happening. But I love the fact that he doesn't shy away from English not being so strong for him, and he's trying and he's getting involved and he's showing some of his personality.
Oh,
And
he
if
showed.
people, I saw some people were saying like, "Oh, it's fake, it's fake." It's like, no. Have you seen how he even interacts with his own team? This is him. This is G. This is GG. That's what I'm calling him now. That's it because he understands it, man. A bit of personality. He's trying. He's an easy player to love. You know,
Yeah, I think it was a great interview. One of the funniest interviews you'll ever see. So if you didn't
definitely.
watch it, I'm sure there's like highlight
Go back and
packages.
see
They're
it.
all on
Oh yeah,
Reddit or wherever it is. It's gonna be posted everywhere. I'm sure of it.
by far. Legacy. Oh my surprise. Jesus. I in a million years didn't think Legacy was gonna have a chance of making it. They were a last minute replacement for Bestia.
But you know, we
Obviously all the
did our
drama around
Swiss
that.
system, and we put Legacy on the 3-2 bracket when we did it together.
Did we?
Yes,
Hey. That's because we were following your little simulator.
yes.
It worked out.
But we
Devil's
had
way
some other
worked
ones
out.
that were wrong. Let me tell you. But we
Massively
don't have
wrong,
to
mate. We'll come
mention
to that.
those.
We'll come to that because Linvision also that NRG game, NRG
Yep.
just mentally crumbled. That was awkward. I don't know if you caught
Yep.
it, but the Dust 2 was like, I know
Well, but
OC's
you
probably
could
going to
you
feel
could
really
see it
bad
in
from
their
this.
faces when they were playing. You could see like they were like almost like they expected to win, and when they got into the second map, they were just getting flustered. Didn't
Yep.
feel like they had it in them anymore in the same degree.
Mm-mm.
And they were in
Not
such a
even
great
close.
position because I mean they were in kind of the game before that against OG. They just looked like shell shocked, like they didn't understand what was
Yeah,
going on. Um,
yeah.
so yeah,
And sadly with NRG and Wildcard, that both happened. Because Legacy was
yeah,
the same, right?
yeah,
Like the problem desk, who obviously I was with Moses and Maui Snake for a lot of it. They had with Wildcard was like Stan's way of calling was adapting as things were happening, but sometimes you were just so behind on rounds before that adaptation happened, and they were
yeah,
trying to claw their way back into games, but that clawing wasn't always working. Just one or two rounds could go wrong, and you find yourself at like a 6-1, 7-1 deficit, and
yeah.
it's tough for a team that seems so confident. They
It's
really
one of
believe that
those
like
things
they can
where
make stage three.
you're going through so many roller coasters in the same map. When you look at that nuke against Betboom, they were so
Hmm.
out of it. They were completely out. Betboom had already won. They're clawing their way back. I don't know how many rounds in a row it was, but it
It
was
was
like
twelve
7 or
four,
8 or
twelve
something.
four into overtime.
Yeah. So 8 rounds in a row, they claw their way back
Yeah.
on the CT side. So a lot of close rounds, there were clutches, and the way they lose it as well, because they had the good read. They boosted Fusi up on ramp. He has this like
Yep.
triple lineup as they walk out, and he's just missing all his shots, and then everything just crumbles from there. And it just, yeah, it's such a heartbreaking way to lose that. Yeah, I don't think they've forgotten it when they go into that
No.
kind of decider game against Legacy. I think it was still haunting them to the
But they had like
core.
the easiest match of the day on paper, going up against Legacy, and then they still falter. I think that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Um, I know people are going to look at wild card, right, and like a big focus on them, and obviously not getting through. But complexity, obviously, they didn't have Halls up, which gives them kind of like a pass. On Junior was not playing at this level all year. Junior's just been farming like tier two, tier three NA teams. Yeah, he might know some of the guys, but there was obviously a lot of times he was just saving the orb. There was some impact he would have, but it was you could see how vital Bullzerg is for that team, and you can see the disappointment and just the sadness from like Grim, JT, because you have two major rookies. You got Junior coming. Like you were just given a rough hand, and I know people still thought they might be able to get through this stage, but it just goes to show how important that teamwork is. Just that understanding of how each other want to play and the type of Orpa that Hulzerk is, and the development Hulzerk's had in probably the since last year to this year, of how much he's improved mentally and individually as a player. When he's gone, how bad it can be for them,
Yeah, I
and
agree
it's
on
really
that, but
sets them back.
at the same time, if you watched their game, you looked at the Grim interview at the end.
Yeah.
Some of the things he was saying was like they weren't even on the same page. And if you look at the game, they weren't. Like there was a lot of times they
Yeah.
took unnecessary risks. They were playing as an individual instead of like a team. If we look back on why we hyped them up for this tournament, like the runs they had in was it Bucharest and Melbourne?
Yep.
They were playing great Counter Strike. They were looking way above, the expectations of everything, and the way they played there was all on like the timing. They understood each other. You could see, they were patient in the round. It felt like they were stressed. They didn't really know what to go for, and I know it is stressful. This is probably like the worst part to play in a major is stage one because
Hmm.
there's so much pressure. Like you don't want to lose here. You want to make it
Yeah.
to stage three. I think stage two is going to be probably the same in some sense to the teams that are already there,
Hmm.
um, and a little bit easier for the teams that made their way there. Because it is stressful. It's like a group stage. Some teams they love performing in playoffs, and some teams they're just
Yeah.
like, okay, I have no pressure once I get to the playoff, but group stage, this is not where you wanna
Mm.
end it. All the pressure is on making the groups,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of that came to them, especially being like a hometown kind of major.
Yep.
Um, Grim. I think he grew up in Austin or been living in Austin for a long while, something along those lines.
Okay.
So there was probably a lot of emotions and pride kind of coming into it. It stressed them out.
Um, and one more team I'll touch on here is actually there's two more teams I'll touch on. Um, Chinggis Warriors. Everyone had them as 0-3, almost everyone. They got to
Yep.
win. They got to win over Fluxo. That interview with Art that I did, the loser interview, there was tears in his eyes, even though he had three rookies on his team. The fact that he had a chance to be back at a major, he's grinded his way up from after the Fury of times. But that was another team who, on the last map, they were checked out, and I think even Art as a leader was checked out, which cost his team as well.
But they
Like,
should have won that Mirage. Like they should
yeah,
have
yeah,
100% won that Mirage. They had
but not being
uh
able to reset after that is a problem.
it is, but they have an 11-8 lead. I I saw some of the rounds, the most chaotic rounds I've ever seen in Counter-Strike. They were all over the
That's expected with
place.
Art as your leader.
Yeah, but it felt like they just lost control and it didn't look nice. Let's just put it that way.
Mm,
There was a
no,
lot of crazy clutches going in from Chinggis Warrior that kind of broke them. Um,
in a big way.
but yeah, I think Chinggis could have easily gone into the 0-3 bracket there.
Now,
But
I got to ask you about this other team. Yeah,
yeah,
your
I'm
Swedish
ready
boys,
for them.
Medisport. What that like? How have you got Isaac, Hampus, and Plopsky? Yeah, Lumi's not a young player, but obviously he's new to this level. How is it this bad?
I
Like
it's
it's
really
actually
it's really hard
awful
to grasp. It's really hard to grasp
because
because it was
the fact they qualified, we were so hyped about, right? It was great for
yeah.
Swedish CS. It was great for the scene. And I personally, I like as a person, I love Hampus. But like, I spoke to Hampus, I spoke to Abdi, the coach, as well. And Abdi was talking to me about the rebuild. Obviously, what happens when you lose a young star like Nilo, who obviously went to Heroic, but isn't playing there at the moment for whatever reason. Um, this sucks. Like, this is they don't look like a team that was practicing together. And yeah, people can say they've only had a few months with like this team, but still, the quality
No,
that's on that team, they should be in a better situation than what I saw. Because it was painful to watch, man. It was horrendous,
no, it was absolute trash, and it feels
as you
sad.
saying that.
No, but it feels sad because I obviously cheering for them, hoping they would
Yeah,
play
yeah.
good. I had worries going into it. One of them not having a home map. It seems like they just pick and choose randomly at times what map they want to play. They ban nuke one day, then they play nuke the next, and and they pick nuke the next day essentially. But it felt like watching it. Even I think they got 20 rounds in 4 maps. They got 13 of
Mhm.
them, on that nuke, where Imperial, I think they were up like 7-1, 7-0 or something like that, and then they kind of
Yeah, and they clawed
faltered
their
and
way.
gave it back to Metasport. It almost felt like
Yeah.
the reason Metasport was getting rounds because Imperial were relaxing rather than maybe
Yeah, foot off the gas
Metasport's.
rather than Metasport playing better. I
Yeah,
feel you.
because if you look at the beginning of these games, like it's just a bunch of individuals. They had zero synergy. There were some shining moments where multi kills were happening, but you could see
Mhm.
like there's a gun round on nuke right in the early stages of the game, and Plopsky is
Yeah.
just straight up walking from yard into main and gets killed by one guy in garage. There's zero smokes on yard from T side. It's just like it looks like a pug in the beginning of that game.
How
Uh,
bad did you feel watching that?
I felt pretty bad, um,
Yeah. I
because
felt bad because I just look at it like I know how good some of these players can be, but like I don't see a star player on that team.
no, but
I
I
don't see
think
someone that can pop off.
I think honestly, like the two players that looked decent to me was Plopsky and Adam B.
Mhm.
They looked like they were trying, even though I think everyone made mistakes. Everyone looked nervous. Everyone looked like they had all the pressure in the world on them. But
Yeah.
the reality was not that they had all the pressure in the world, but they probably put themselves in a spot where we represent Swedish Counter Strike, and that got a little bit too heavy for them.
Well, actually,
Um,
when you're saying they don't have the pressure, I would say like Hampers, Plopsky, and Isaac, given the careers they have had, might have that pressure internally on themselves, you know?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But there's
Yeah.
no pressure really from the outside of them doing
No, none of us were
super
expecting them to
good.
even make it to stage 2, but
I think
zero
that
three and the way they went 0-3 was ugh.
it was horrendous, but at the same way, they should be proud. They definitely weren't ready for this kind of test, and
Yeah.
by the listening to the interview afterwards, they probably had some internal struggles, and that they don't even know if this team is gonna survive
Yeah,
longer.
you caught that right, what Hamper said to me,
Yeah,
like, "Oh, we're not
it's
sure
like
about
other people have
contract lengths."
offers,
Yeah,
people's
dude,
contracts are
it's
going out,
crazy.
and it feels like they don't want to stay together as a team.
And remember, Metasport already sold like ZTR, SASP, Nilo. So like, as it's a Norwegian organization, they're obviously looking to make money from this as well. They got the stickers in the game, so they're probably orgs happy. But then it's like, okay, so now what other players can we potentially sell? But ultimately, not many of those players have a high stock value. You know, it's not like super interesting to take some of these players, but it does feel like if that team wants to continue, there's got to be at least two player changes.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's hard. I don't want to kick on someone that's down if they have internal
No,
struggles.
no, no.
Everything is like shit, and I know the feeling, and it feels like doesn't matter what happens in this tournament if things are already decided for the future.
Yeah,
But it definitely looked like five individuals on the server, and it didn't look like a team.
no.
That's where I'll put it. They got dominated. They were the worst team at stage one, and that's not
Yep.
even a competition.
All right, let's start now going down into stage 2. It's starting literally soon tomorrow. Like I believe I'm waking up at probably 7 a.m. tomorrow to get ready. Um
Yeah,
and go through everything and say like how this is even gonna it's such a crazy turnaround for teams that have just played as well. But that's the thing of the majors. There's not many days off. There's not much scheduling in with it. So
yeah.
let's do a bit of an overview on each team that's coming in. We've already done the 8 teams from before. We spoke about what the teams that have already qualified and made it through have done. So let's go through our new 8 teams. We'll start with here. We can start with Pain if you want.
All right. So I wrote something down like essentially Pain. They were super exciting. It's one of my favorite teams to start off the year with. They had that kind of attitude on the server, like they didn't give a fuck what happened. They're gonna do it. When once action started, they just went kind of a Virtus plow kind of mode. And ever since that kind of first, second tournament, they lost it. Like it felt like I don't know if they changed their game, they didn't have belief in something. They
Hmm.
obviously struggled with things in game. Made a couple of changes now to kind of bounce back. They haven't.
Yep.
Um, so now is kind of the test for them. They've had some time to get. It's Davideus, right? That got in.
Well, David Ace has been there for most of this
No,
year. It's
it's oh
DGT was a
yes,
new one in. Yeah,
DGT. Sorry,
DGT.
I am
And by the
tired.
way, no, that's fine. And I'll give you something on that just when you before you get into DGT.
Yeah.
So David Deus, even though he comes from, I just remember it, Chile. Yeah, he comes from Chile. His girlfriend is Brazilian. He speaks the language, so his
Ah,
communication is good. For DGT, he can speak, but it's not great, what I've heard. It's not the
okay.
most perfect communication. So it is going to take a bit
So
longer
he's still
for them to be
learning.
ready. He's still learning. Like they have so many similarities in the language, but it's not fluid, smooth communication,
Yeah.
which is not a positive sign. Their PGL Astana result, you can't focus on too much because they played a lot of events with Ricks in that. But I think this move, they wanted DGT for a reason. He obviously played with NQZ at one point as well. Um, but this is going to be like a team where I say they're not ready for the major. Um, they've been in America already. I think they told where did they tell me? I think they're in Miami or Florida, I think.
Yeah.
Boot camping. And obviously all teams are over here, so it's good practice time. So it needs a significant improvement. But that's still to me, the big hole is this communication thing, which is
I
obviously
mean,
for me, I always say communication is the key to success.
yeah. That's always going to be a tough like kind of bump to hurdle yourself over, but they've had time enough to kind of incorporate him into the strat book, everything like that, to this point at least. Obviously, the
Yeah.
language thing is going to be a little bit of a con in this circumstances. And most of the games they played against top tier opponents. But if you actually look down at it, they've won, I think, one best of three in the last 13. That's five
Oh,
maps out of the
that
last
sounds really bad, man.
29.
I wasn't looking at it
Um,
like that.
so everything
A
looks
couple of
pretty
those
shit.
events though were with stand-ins, with coach playing. You know,
That
that's the
is
caveat
that
that's
is
going to
that
save
is
him.
that is true. But at the
Yeah,
same time, they're looking at a 13% win rate the last 3 months,
jokes.
which is bad even for bad teams. So,
This is why I'm glad I'm not a stats guy because, like, this, this. I'm
but
glad
at
you
the
look at
same
this stuff
time,
because
it's
that
like you
sounds
say,
terrible.
there's context to it. There are things like they had a stand-in, and then the next event,
Yeah.
when they actually get the GT in, they just got him in. So
Hmm.
there are definitely context to it, but if they're gonna be able to win games, now they have to do it.
Yeah.
They should feel lucky to be in the stage two of the major at this point with the form that they've
Definitely.
had. So they kind of have to show us something because I thought they were so exciting to watch. They had this style
We
of
were really
them that
hyped them at the
just
beginning of the year.
yeah,
Remember, on this
it was
podcast, we were
super
like
exciting,
picking them out.
watching Snow with the clutches, all that flicky, all that potential you see with the kind of high sense, X factor, and everyone else around them. It just feels like, okay, now please bring it out now, and I want to see it. And but I don't have that big hopes for them. I just hope to see what I once saw.
Hmm. Next team to look at, I think we should do is go to Europe on this one. 3D Max.
3D
3D
Max.
Max for me are in a team that's currently spiraling in some ways. There was a small increase, I think, when Body joined the team.
Yep.
When Body came through, I was like, okay, this is going to give Mac a bit of a second voice. This is going to add some experience to the team and help them try and level some things up. But it's not been great. And like people might look at the rank of this team. I'm just going to double check it. They're like
They're pretty well
13th in the
ranked.
VRS rankings, but it's not a team that plays like a team at that level. And even in this stage two, I'm worried for them. Like I haven't spoken or seem to remember. The teams just arrived like yesterday, so between work and stuff, I've only spoke to a handful of players and teams. I haven't seen anyone from 3D Max yet, but it is a team where I think this is a do or die moment for the next season. Like this major needs to go well for you, and you need to show me more than what I've seen at recent events.
Yeah. I think in general, when I look at 3D Max, I always think back. It feels like, in a weird way, like the same roster from 5 years ago in the French scene, recycled into new parts. It's different every time I see it, but it's not enough to make me excited. Uh,
And lacks a
they're
bit of
they
star
are
potential.
competitive. That's the thing about them. They're competitive, but they're always in this like middle ground space where they never really have those breakout games, and
Hmm.
they're kind of finishing in the same spot every single event. The one thing going for
Yeah,
them, they're kind of always dangerous. They're always kind of surprising with picking up one map, making it kind of close, but they're never really going above that, finish line.
yeah,
So and I think the big part of that is that they kind of lack that superstar player.
yeah,
Um, they seem to be five, you know, decent players playing great team play, understanding each other, uh, but they don't really have that X factor that's gonna push them right over the line against the bigger teams. They're gonna make it close, but not really all the way.
yeah. And this is the thing for these guys is that they've had a year where they've entered a lot of tournaments. They're trying to be grind through things, and it just kind of gets worse, you know? If I
Yeah,
look down Bucharest when I was there, yeah, they took down Mongols, they took down a failing Astralis, they took down Aurora. The Aurora one was a big one. Um, so that's probably their best placement of the year. But in Dallas, they lost the game Legion, still got a map, lost the one against Legacy, but lost one map, and they lost to G2 with Hades standing in. And
yeah,
this is G2 without a lot of star power, you know? And if that's undoing you, I'm even worried for their opening game here against Bet.
Yeah, but I feel like every game they play is a 2-1. Doesn't even matter if the opponent is lesser tier or higher tier in some
Or
way.
better.
So
Yeah,
there's still potential in them. I think in some way we're overly negative towards them because they are making it competitive, but it's just like I don't know what ingredient I'm really finding exciting about them. That's, I think, the problem I have with them versus like some other teams, like even Pain, where I've seen Snow like kind of pop off to these like monster levels of performances, even though he is very inconsistent as a player in Pain. uh, I don't
true.
really know where I'm putting the X factor in 3D Max. Where, okay, is this their ceiling? Are they just where they're supposed to be? Or is there anything in the lineup that's going to push them further and actually kind of challenge to be better and challenge for the top 10, top 5 spots? That's
Yeah.
where I'm kind of leading the conversation with 3D Max, and I don't know where that ingredient is.
And they're probably still trying to find it as well.
Yeah.
Um, from 3D Max, let's have a look over to CIS region. Let's go to Virtus Pro. Oh,
Yeah.
and I laugh when saying Virtus Pro because I was on a give them time, belief in the future with this team. And now I'm on a okay, I am pretty confident you're gonna mess up at some point. Because there was a moment where it was like a good performance could make it to playoffs, then a drop down, then a good performance. Obviously, they changed coach again. Finn's had some more time. I last saw them in Astana. And Finn, who obviously is the new coach, the guy who was previously behind Gambit Youngsters, super experienced coach, very knowledgeable. He, when he saw me in Astana, said, "Yeah, okay, the result's not great. They finished ninth to 11th. They lost to MIBR. I mean, they
Yep.
didn't go to the arena. Um, that was their chance of playoffs, especially in Astana, would have been huge. Do you know what they had to do after that, by the way, after Astana? They had to go to like a signing session every day in the arena because obviously it's kind of like a home crowd, CIS region out in Astana. Um, a lot of fans, a lot of love given to them, but like that must have been super sad for them all to have to do that. Fair play
Yeah.
that they did do it. But Finn said he learned so much of what needs to be worked on. And at least now they've had time. They've had now almost a month since their last official. The problem is their opening game is against OG. And just with what I've seen from OG, I have more confidence in that compared to what I've seen from Virtus Pro in a long time. And there's obviously the rumors at the moment that Virtus Pro were already, before this major, started looking for a new IGL. Whether Electronic just goes back to a different position. Maybe if they remove him, I'm not sure what the plan is. But like, look at this team they have. I see there is some inconsistencies there. He definitely
Yeah.
is not even the best AWPer in Kazakhstan. If I'm looking at Molodoy, for example, who Furia got, Flammers, obviously not the same player we saw at Game Legion. Things have changed for him when he comes into this lineup. Um, Electronic's not going to have the impact he had because he's IGLing. There's still so many strange qualities within this team. But on paper, when you look at the players, you think they should be doing better than what I'm saying. So I
Yep.
don't know, man. It's kind of
I agree.
it's a team that I can get hyped about, but just because of all the recent results, I'm not hyped.
I
And
wrote
also now
them.
the rumors.
I wrote in my prep document, in a weird
Mhm.
way, everyone expects a lot of them, and they always almost deliver.
Yeah, that's actually a way good way of summing it up.
So,
Yeah,
and one of the things like I kind of question when I look at this. My general thought is like a lot about it is the leadership and electronic.
yeah,
Has he learned his lessons going into this tournament? Is he going to be harsh on these players? Because there could be kind of a viewpoint of like, is electronic kind of making these players more inconsistent with how harsh he's been, or as at least it's viewed on camera, being harsh
yeah.
on some of these young, inexperienced players like Flammers and Icy, because they've been a lot more inconsistent, going
He
into
did say
a
to me
lineup
though
like this.
at the Astana interview, I pushed him on the it was like the pre-tournament interview from Media Day. And I said to him about being harsh. And one thing that I thought was very nice and I didn't expect from Electronic was where he said he was reflecting on how he is and how he needs to be as a leader. So it
Yeah.
seems to me like he's understanding some of his angst that comes out
Like the delivery can
isn't
be
isn't
maybe be
positive.
yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's different. This isn't Na'Vi days now where that was like the go-to way of screaming and shouting at each other to get the point across.
I mean, if it brings success and you're screaming and shouting, it's not going to be as tremendously bad as when you're struggling to improve. Then it's gonna weigh a lot harder on you.
Mhm.
But it's also like back in those days, a lot of these pros, like even electronic, he's played majors with Flipside. He's played big tournament games, stage games. He comes in as a new player in Navi and maybe gets into that environment. Is different compared to having a lot of rookies that are debuting in these kinds of settings. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of my questions actually lie on electronic, and I'm actually giving passes to icy and flammus because to me it looks like a clash in leadership style to players
Um,
at this
maybe
point.
Finn being the new coach can fix some of that, but
But
it's not a positive sign if people already are looking at a new IGL, like who goes
no,
from that team, because
definitely
obviously they
not.
paid a lot of money for Electronic. Does he stay anyway, even not as an IGL?
But even with all these issues, there's still a competitive team. There's still a team that can be dangerous, that can win against big opponents. So
Mhm.
it's a weird kind of talking point because which Virtus Pro you're gonna get? Are you gonna get the kind of
Yeah,
tilted, harsh, kind of everyone's looking down VP, or are you gonna get that like really tactical and everything just clicks Virtus Pro where the opponents almost has no clue what they're supposed to do. So there are these two sides where um, they can upset big teams, they can perform,
yeah,
and they haven't been that terrible. It's just that we, with the players on paper, expect a lot more, especially with someone like Electronic with all that experience and all of these,
mhm,
big game moments as both an individual player and also as an in-game leader in Navi at a certain
yep,
point. Should be able to bring and produce a little bit more than what we've seen.
definitely. Next team to look at, M80 going over to North America with a bit of German flair to them. Um, I'm so checked out on M80, and I know it's going to sound really bad. There was a moment at the beginning of the year where I thought I see some potential with this team. It's when they lost to G2 with Taz in Astana that I was like, okay, what the hell's going on? Because they've had time together. Lake's been able to get adjusted. Sometimes he can look very sharp for sure, but they just sometimes lose inexcusable rounds, sorry. They sometimes don't look like they're on the same page. I'm not sure what would need to change in order for this team to work. Sometimes Swisher can be having a couple of good moments, but he's not consistent throughout the games. Um, I think a lot relies on like Lake slacks and then hoping someone else can pick up some of the stuff that's left over and from behind.
Yeah.
But in this stage, like they look like even if you look stat wise, they look like a weak team, especially against this field of opposition.
So I haven't revealed any pick-ems for any other team, but I actually put them in my 0-3 for stage two. Uh,
Whoa.
I'll 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 try to explain why, but in general, I
Okay.
think last year, I think they were a great team to watch. They had a lot of potential. They were real threats to real big teams.
Yeah.
It looked like they were just growing and growing from each tournament. But this year, I haven't really seen them. I feel like they've been almost like an easy picking for pretty much every team that they played in the big events. They do have one thing like kind of going for them is ancient. They can play ancient to an extremely high level, where they
Mhm.
can beat pretty much anyone on it in the world. But that's kind of their only trump card, is
So it's a
ancient.
gimmick.
So,
Yeah.
well, it's not really a gimmick. They have a really strong home map, But is one
But if you
map
don't
gonna
get
be
that map, you're
enough?
screwed. Yeah.
They're not gonna get it in the first 2 stages, right? Because it's best of 1. So, they're gonna get, like, one of their middling maps, so
Mhm.
the one thing or the key for them is trying to figure out, okay, can we, I hope they've done this, can we get a map that everyone's going to pick against us to get really strong going into this major? If they can do
Mhm.
that and get into a best of 3 scenario where they have ancient and that kind of wrench where they just throw it in, people are picking it against them and they can produce a win, that's their only shot. But it's, I
Yep.
think it's too big of an ask, but it's my kind of, okay, this is the path they could take. Um, so they haven't really left a market this year. They only win ancient consistently, and that's pretty much it. They're going to be really weak in best of ones, and there's just a maybe if they've done it potential where I see. Um, but yeah, yeah. Last year looked like a great team. This year, not so much.
Yeah. Bit of a struggle for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where it's gonna get super tough. How many more teams we got to go through? So we haven't done Falcons phase. We haven't done MIBR, and we haven't done Furious. Just four more left, if I'm right.
Let's say that I can't count right now. I'm too caffeine
And we did
pilled
VP,
late
we
at
did 3D
night.
Max, we did Pain, we did Mate. Yeah, okay, I'm right, I'm correct. All right, from here then, let's go and take phase.
All right.
Let's take a look at phase. Now, my bias is going to come in 100%, but I've also been hearing really good things behind the scenes. I did some media today with Simple as well. They have been farming NA Face. It's not too hard for them. It's They played Dallas with Simple, yes, but Scholes was there. This event, Rain is back. He's just had his
Yep.
child. So, he's going to be thinking, time to shine, major time, got to go and do one proud for the family back home. I can't be away for this without, having the extra dominance. And also, he really wanted to play with Simple. Simple wanted to play with Rain. This is now the dream team coming together.
Yeah.
Simple has been grinding. He has been grinding. I'm going to go and bring up his face it again, but they were in a boot camp in Dallas, so not far away from here. They were playing a hell of a lot of matches. People kept finding matches where he had games against Munacy and Nico, for example. Now,
Yeah.
not every game was Simple playing out of his mind, was like a superstar, but it's looking a lot better. One game he had a win. He dropped 44 for 19, 123 ADR. Who was in that game? Let's have a look. Simple, Frozen, Rain, Neo, Techno, Mazzinio, so some of the Mongols players mixed in with some of the NA as well. It's a good sign. He's been on team practice and playing faces and playing with the team and having positive impact on his teammates around him. I don't know if you saw the quote that came out from Frozen, but it was like Frozen himself wants to, play good around a player like Simple.
Yeah.
And I am biased on the Simple side of things, but this is also Carrigan being the greatest leader of all time and what he's able to do with rosters. This is where I want to see them of looking a lot better, understanding how they want to play with each other and showing up. Crazy thing is they got heroic, which obviously in the first game, you remember that clip from Simple, like joking around?
Yeah. It's a fun one.
Now, this is a best of one, though, not a best of three. And obviously, Heroic are here. They're adjusted. They understand everything. Now, there's going to be no jet lag on the FaceTime because they have stayed in America since Dallas, but it is going to be them getting used to this setup, getting used to this play again. It's a spicy opening game, but I
It
still have
is.
I have FaZe in a confident position. Like Carrigan is someone I trust to have now made this work. He doesn't need so much time to get this together.
So I pretty much kind of wrote down like pretty much the same things that you're saying. I think
Okay.
the first thing is, obviously Rain. This is the first big event for them together. Ignore the other one. I think they showed some
Yeah.
potential, even with Skulls there. Um, but you could see these glimpses of Simple, okay, he's back, and then all of a sudden he's not back. He's back, he's not back. And
Yeah.
I feel like him ironing that out, he should have had at least some time to kind of delete some of these "he's not back" moments. Um,
He should be
and
feeling the game more, right?
yeah, definitely. And he should be more in tune with what they want to do, and they probably made changes that
Mhm.
kind of fit the whole team. I'm sure Simple has had tactical input as well that makes sense from his Navi days. So they're probably incorporating some different things and getting some new
Okay.
ideas. And that's probably what's been lacking for FaZe, where they've kind of been a rut, where nothing is working and
Mhm.
they don't really know how to fix it. If you looked at that kind of documentary of how Brokey got benched. They didn't really
Yeah.
know what the issue was, and I think someone coming in with that perspective and giving them some new solutions, they can kind of apply it to some of the problems they've had in the past. So I think that's great. I think in general, simple
Oh,
is
it's my blood
obviously the
sugar
big
monitor.
question. If they're gonna be a real threat in this major, it a lot of it lies on simple. Because
Mhm.
he's going to be their X factor, right? If we can get Rain being consistent, we can get Frozen being on the levels where he's been performing, being that kind of high performer essentially, uh, and get Simple up there with him. I have no doubt they will make it to stage 3. I think Kerrigan, if
Oh, I like that you
anyone.
said no doubt.
No,
Do
I,
you have
I
them as a
have I have a
3-0 though?
no, I don't have them as a trio. I have
Mhm.
a crazy one as trio. But yeah, I think I looked at the games and I was like, okay, FaZe could lose against Heroic. They could actually do
Yeah.
that, and there would be no shame, and I still would have them go through. But at the same time, Heroic could lose against FaZe. So,
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
but I
These
think I
best of
think
ones will get
Kerrigan
wild.
can make this happen. He's had enough time. They've talk to each other. They grinded the game. It feels like they have a new hunger
Yep.
for it, and you can see it on how much they play with the coach. They're just filling the spots. Let's play, play, play at the boot camps. So I think that's a great sign and exactly what they've been needing for a while now. So it's a breath of fresh air to see, the face guys kind of at least in the public eye been
Mhm.
grinding this much.
All right. So from phase, we're gonna look at MIBR. For
All right.
MIBR, it's a team that had a good showing at Astana. Wasn't bad for them. Beating G2 with a coach, obviously, we just expected. But then you beat Pain, you beat VP, and then you lose to Fury in the playoffs when the whole crowd was going for Moldoy, and most of MIBR had never played on stage.
Yep.
I think it was, yeah, only Safe had ever played on stage or a big stage or a big arena. For me, they've got one of the easiest opening games, but it is a domestic matchup. So that makes it a little bit more interesting. This is a team that's always got potential, but I
Yep.
don't like the fact that obviously they've changed the IGL situation so many times. Um, I want to see Insani thrive more, but I feel like the Astana into now having some time to boot camp and get ready for the major, we can see them maybe at their fullest potential, you know? And they do have a chance of making it through to stage 3. But um BRN, Brennan, however you want to say his name,
Yep.
he's the one who is still the one I doubt the most. I want to see the best from Lukowski, Insani, and Safe. And that's the winning recipe. But it all comes under what Exit can do with JNT as the coach to make that happen and use them in the right way. Because the inconsistencies of leadership and things always changing is probably the biggest downfall of this team.
Yep. So they obviously don't have like a great win rate in the last 3 months. It's around like 33%. I think, they were considered the best Brazilian team. They probably still are to some extent, even though they've been inconsistent. There's probably arguments for other people, or there will be arguments after this tournament for other people
Hmm.
to kind of take that spot. They're not in a very rock solid spot where, like, yes, they are the best. No one can argue with that. I think they could easily lose against uh, pretty much 3 or 4 other Brazilian teams in a matchup, right? I feel like that, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean though, like they shown sometimes they're just good, they look competitive, and then they fall flat. I think as well, if you look at their map pool, it's a little bit troublesome with. If you look at the best of ones, like they could easily be in trouble in the best of ones, having that kind of middle of the pack map of like Nuke and Ancient, where you
Hmm.
look at some of the teams that came up from stage one, Heroic and OG. Some of their best maps are that Ancient Nuke kind of way. So they're if they get into that, and then you look at the maps they are bad on, which are Inferno and Train, or at least in the win rate side, it's 25% and 16%. Are they gonna
The
choose
Inferno
to?
one's crazy because it's normally a good map for Brazilian teams.
Yeah, so it's like the biggest pros you can actually say, they have been really competitive against some of the best teams. They've taken a
Hmm.
map off Vitality. Most of the competition they've actually played against is top tier, so they're not like the win
Yeah, they've
rates
had
are a
good invites
bit
this year.
skewed in that sense. They're dangerous on Anubis against pretty much any opponent. That's where they've
Yep.
beaten the top teams. So I think the only thing is like, yeah, they're really strong on that map, but is it gonna be enough if they don't pick up early wins to kind of get themselves that extra life in the Swiss system? Uh, but it's as you mentioned, you need a lot of players to kind of step it up, be that hallmark. There's always been a lot of potential in Safe. He's always been a great offer, but you know, Insani always been impactful, has that X factor in him, kind of push games and make them exciting. But I don't really know where I have them. They're in my kind of middle of the pack. Maybe could make it. Maybe could not. I don't know if I'm willing to bet my money that they'll make it through. I don't think so.
Yeah. It's not a safe bet in any imagination.
No, I think it's very much up in the air. Like because you haven't really seen them that much in the last. We saw them in Astana,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. They lost against a Furia with a completely new lineup.
Yeah, but it was a
Um,
stage game that, as I said, the experience not of having played on a stage for most of the players, and also Molodoi basically being the home crowd for Furia.
yeah, that's true.
That did
But
help them.
it was a
That's a
crowd
factor.
that cheered for everyone. Let's be real.
Yeah, but in that they were not cheering for MIBR.
Oh, okay, okay, that might be true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was completely like there was a cheer for MIBR. It was not booze, but it was Molodoi. It was Furia. It was that's it.
yeah.
That's just the way it went, right?
But it's a team I have a little bit of question marks for as well. I would probably definitely put them through in a stage one if they were there. Uh,
Hmm.
that I would, but in stage two, it's the competition is so much rougher. You're having the best teams from stage one. You have some of the great teams. We haven't even I haven't even touched on Falcons, which is like the second best team in the world, still being in this stage. Uh, so depending on opponents, they could have a really tough time.
Yeah. All right, let's go from MIBR to another Brazilian team that isn't quite Brazilian anymore. Furia.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say this. I'm ignoring what happened at Dallas because they had to travel from Astana straight into a game at Dallas with like very little time in between. I forget the exact time, but it was like Yakinda said they played like 6 hours after landing. They're in their first game. They
yeah, I
lost to
think
the
that's fair.
Mongols there. They beat Lin Vision, then they lost to Game Legion. Obviously, they would have had time to reset after that, but it's also coming over to North America again. Since then, they've just been in North America, practicing, boot camping, playing together, getting more experience, getting Molodoi set in, who obviously he's still going through his learning of English at the same
Yeah,
time, as are some of the Brazilian players, Yuri and Queserato. Um, but Yakinda is looking like he's back. We
one of
saw
the
how
things that
confident
I
he looked
wrote.
in Astana. Nice. And their opening game is against Lin Vision, who they beat 2-0 in Dallas.
Yeah,
Now it's a best of one, yeah, sure. But I mean, for me, this Furia, they have such a good chance here, and I truly believe that Fallen's way of playing rifle now, and just his knowledge of the game and spacing and how to take different areas of the map in control and how him and Yakinda are working is something that I can believe in for a success story.
Yeah, but you could also see it as almost a blessing to some IGLs. We obviously saw Cadian maybe struggle it a little bit more if you look at the AWPers who transitioned into riflers IGLing.
Yeah.
But it could actually be a blessing in in disguise to some degree because he'll have more control, he'll have more ways to put input into the team, he'll have a better
Hmm.
overview because you don't have to always focus on your crosshair and talk at the same time. You could actually, not cover something, talk about nades, look at the delivery, flick around a lot more and see what's going on. So I think it can be a
Yeah.
blessing for a caller. Um, but I mean, in general, it's like you say. I think it's Jakinder is back. Looks like his old self. Takes entries, plays with confidence again. Completely different look to what he was in Liquid,
Yeah.
where it didn't feel like he had the confidence to do anything. Um, so
He's
I
looking
think,
happy again.
yeah, and he's enjoying Counter Strike and he's being that creative, in the moment creative Jakinder again, which was one of the
Definitely.
greatest entries on the server back in the days. So seeing that, also it's like Molodoy. Can you have a better mentor going into an
True.
AWPing role?
Your
I
first
don't think
major.
so. Like he's called the professor. He's been a star AWPer his entire career. People remember a Fallen Flick, let's put it that way. And
Hmm.
he's so smart, intelligent, and I don't know what the word is, but like a teacher in the way that he speaks about the game. So it's very easy
Yes.
to comprehend what he's talking about. So he's very well spoken. So in that sense, where's the limit of him developing an opera from the ground up? A young guy that looks up to him and has that raw ability and just learning
Hmm.
positioning, thinking, and all this stuff, and having an in-game leader who understands the op role so deeply
Yeah.
to just push him to go there. I think it's the perfect setup for him to develop and feel confident and feel like he has faith from his teammates and in-game leader. So I think these obviously are key parts of they need to perform because I think the stability of having Caserato and Jury, I think they've always been stable players. Caserato
Hmm.
a little bit more than Jury, but at the same time they've always been stable. So
Yuri's
I
been the
think
one that stepped
there's
up recently.
yeah, so there's a lot of positives to look at this, and not only short term but also long term for the squad. And I
Hmm.
think the only real question mark is: was it an honeymoon period, or is this going to continuously rise?
Yeah.
Um, they have played the best teams, but are they going to struggle against, let's say, up and comers, the teams that are a little bit lower than them? Is that going to be
But they've
a
probably been
different
practicing
challenge
against
for
these
them?
lower teams here on boot camp the whole time as well.
Yeah, but it can always be a little bit more scary going up against a team that you feel like, okay, we have the pressure to perform against them. We should win. And they start gaining
I
rounds.
think
How do you deal with that?
I think it's Molodoy who won't like he will just in those kind of games, so I expect him to farm.
All right.
Like this is what he's used to, this is his bread and butter, this is what he'll do his most damage on. Maybe what you're talking about could be on some of the other players,
Yeah.
but for Molodoy, I'm not worried about. I just have that feeling, that sense from talking to him.
These
Like
are just
that's where he's
like
gonna thrive.
questions that might be valid going into them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of positives. Definitely a lot of positives going for Fury. I think they're building a competitive team, and it's something that I was negative to the start when they made the changes. I was like, what the fuck is this?
It was the
And
craziest, weirdest
they've
move going.
yeah, and they've proved me wrong. I have to kind of say, okay, fuck my opinion in this point, because
Yeah, it was the
they
right call
obviously
by
know
the
what
looks
they're
of it.
doing.
But we still need to wait. You're right that there's the potential of looking at the honeymoon period,
Yeah,
but I am just excited to see what they've been able to do with some more time off the back of it.
yeah,
Um, all right, one final team to look at here before we go into like predictions. Then we'll do pick'ems, and then we come towards the end. I'm trying to make sure I keep your energy high and my energy high because I am knackered as well. And it's like you're actually in the. It's now 3 a.m. for you.
yeah.
So sorry for all the viewers out there that this might not be our usual level of competent podcast. It is. It's going to be a long ride. This major. So Falcons, obviously, the addition of Monacy was huge. They fly into Melbourne, and they get second place to another great grand final against Vitality. Then they go to Blast Rivals straight after that. They meet Vitality in the finals again. It once again is 3-2. So they go the full distance with Vitality, proving they can go toe to toe. In Dallas, it goes to 3 maps. There was actually a chance that they probably could have had the win over Vitality to get to the grand final and defeat that streak, but Vitality is kind of invincible. Falcons are the strongest team in this stage, and it's only because their VRS wasn't high at the point of invites for the major that they're not in stage three. And I think them being in stage two is actually only a good thing for them to just get a few more officials in, to get some more games under them and dominate. But the only thing I have is that if Magisk is obviously aware he's going out, Kioski, whatever you want to call him, he's coming in. That's the only thing that could have a negative. But Magisk is more than a capable enough player to say, my last rodeo, I've been here before. Let me do what I got to do. One more major won't hurt my amazing name and what I've built for myself as a legacy. Either way, Falcons is they should farm in every game, no matter who they go up against.
I agree. I mean, nobody can go into the Pick'ems and say like, "Oh, I'm not putting Falcons 3-0 at this point in this stage." I
Yeah,
think I think that would be
I'd be surprised.
absolutely ludicrous. Um,
Yeah.
I think if you look at even the Magis discussion, um, I feel like he posted a lot better numbers in the last couple of matches, last couple of events. I think he's grown into the team, even though he's rumored to be booted off the team after the major and replaced. I still think they look stronger and stronger, and I think he
Hmm.
is contributing to that. Um, and I mean, it's hard to find cons for this team. It's just, pros. They're the second best team in the world. Monesi, top three player in the world. Nico is, we talked to Hooksy about Nico. He could be the best
Yeah.
in-game leader in the world. He's controlling CT sides, even though he might not, have the best games all the time right now compared to past Nico a few years ago, where he would be topping the
Mhm.
charts every single game. He's still capable of doing that every single game and have all this impact on the server with communication, organizing, all of that stuff. That's super important to make sure the team clicks and is consistent. So I think they have all the ingredients to kind of mess Vitality's major up, because
Oof.
that's where the conversation is driving towards them. Even if it's stage two now, they are the biggest rival to Vitality. They are the only
Yeah.
one that's been looking like they even have a shot at taking the crown and throwing it to the ground and kind of saying it's not that clear. So yeah, they're just the most obvious team ever to go through this stage.
And if the only thing I can see as a negative is just that they're changing lineup after the major, that's it's not even a bad thing because of the player they're changing and his mental and he knows Zonic, Lars, the system, They've had a
Yeah.
great boot camp in America as well. So they've been in boot camping from Dallas. I spoke to Monasi earlier. Um, he's in very, very good mood and high spirits. He's ready to own. He's just been farming Face It. He just said it's just crazy, just queuing Face It. Obviously, a lot of the people he said he's like 4 point something kilo, 4.6K or 8K elo. And
Yeah, that's
like
kind of
he
crazy.
gets matched with 2.2K elo because obviously there's such a difference in NA face it, but he's going to be warmed up. He's going to be ready. He's going to be on his absolute A game. So yeah,
I
that
mean,
tied to everything else we know about him. Nico at a major.
I don't think anyone. If you just like, oh, what could hinder Falcons? Is anyone gonna say anything about that? Even if you asked all the experts, all the personalities in Counter Strike, I don't think a
Only
single
the
one.
rumor. It's
Yeah,
only the rumor.
but it's like a maybe, and like it's obviously not 100% confirmed. It's probably going to happen,
Eh, eh,
but
eh.
but it's not that big of a deal because it's also
Yeah.
it would be different if a young player was changed and his mentality would be broken, but it's different for an experienced guy. He knows what he needs to do. This is his job. He's done it in the past. He's ready
Mhm.
for it. I don't think it's going to
Yeah.
affect him in the same way that would the 20-year-old rookie. Like it's not comparable. So I think it could even boost his performance in a weird way. So yeah, I don't even see it as a con.
No. And Magic's has been playing better
Yeah.
recently as well.
Yeah.
So all of that can factor into it. And it's not like he's an old player. We've been talking about him for ages because he started so young as Magic's boy, but he has grown up and he's still a young player who can hold his own and do his best. But yeah, Falcons are like the clear favorites at this stage by far. Like
Yeah,
it's a
it's
huge
not
one. It's a
it's not even
massive one.
fun.
So, all right, that gives us our preview of stage two. And everyone needs to know about that, our thoughts, opinions on the teams, what we saw from stage one up until here. So, do you want to do Pick-Ems before we go into predictions? Or do you want to do predictions first?
Uh, we can do.
Probably
It
predictions
doesn't
first,
matter.
right? That would make sense.
We can do predictions
Let's do
first. Yeah.
predictions first because, like, we can only predict the first opening matchups, right?
Yeah.
So, let me get this up. Stage two.
Feel bad for bait.
Yeah. First game, Falcons bait. Munacy and Hedrick, very close friends from Navi Junior days as well. You know,
Yeah.
this like it's just going to be a battle of friends, but bait are probably going to lose. Like 99% sure, even if it's a best of one, this should be Falcons winning.
Yeah. I think the one thing is like if bait would have been matched up with any other team in this stage other than
Yep.
Falcons, they would have a shot at going one
But
zero.
how does this work, by the way? Like, this is because it's the seed one Falcons against seed nine bait.
I think so. Yeah.
So it was bad for bait to go through 3-0 because you get a
Yeah.
harder matchup here, but your next matchup should be easier. It's such a messy system.
It
It's so
is,
much
but
better if it's 1-16, 2
obviously, I'm
15.
picking Falcons, but I feel bad for Bait because
Yeah.
I think they could win against literally every other team.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. FaZe versus Heroic second game. This one's tough, man.
I'm picking Heroic.
Are you?
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yeah, give
Because
me your reasons why.
well, they did win against them. I don't know about FaZe.
With
It's just
Skulls.
guesstimates and hopes at this point. I've seen
Okay.
Heroic, therefore I'm picking them. Even though I don't think it's gonna be easy. I don't think it's gonna be. I'll say it like this, okay? It's going to be a middle of the pack map for both teams.
Hmm.
I think that FaZe, it's unrealistic that they're going to have a mega strong map pool. They're going to have like 3, maybe 4
True.
maps that they're going to be good at. Heroic, they're an established teams. They have those middle of the pack maps, and I think they're going to have a stronger map for them than it's going to be for FaZe in the best of one.
Okay. Okay. I, with my heart, are gonna say FaZe, but I'm worried for an opening matchup. This is tough,
Yeah.
and it's more tough for the FaZe side because of how they're coming into
But
this. You
also
know?
imagine how energized you want to be as heroic after that video. Even though it's a troll video, they still call them fucking
Yeah,
bots.
yeah, yeah. No, simple. Call them fucking
Yeah,
bots. Just
well,
simple.
I would take it as
Oh,
everyone and just
he said what?
let that
Except
fuel
to
you.
near. and Sun Pius. Everyone else is bots on that team. But it was a joke.
Yeah.
But there's some truth in it, as he said himself in the video. All right, I'm going with FaZe because it's my boy Simple. I gotta back him, but I understand why you're going for Heroic. I don't blame you on that one. 3D Max Bet Boom.
Oof,
I'm
oof,
going
oof,
Bet Boom,
ooh.
baby. I'm going Bet Boom.
Ooh. Let's make it spicy. I'll go 3D Max.
Okay, okay. I'm believing in Bet Boom because they're already here. They're already used to it all. They know what's going on within this system and this setup. And I think 3D Max will just be a bit shaky coming in.
Yeah, that's fair.
It
But I
won't be
think
smooth for
that
them. It won't be smooth.
this is the type of opponent that 3D Max should be able to win against. Um, if they're not winning against the Bet Boom, like
Yeah.
caliber of teams, they're going 0-3.
Oof.
That's how I feel. Like
True.
this is a game they should have. They they should be happy they got Bet Boom.
Okay. Next, Virtus Pro OG. I'm I'm
OG,
believing in the OG hype train, man. Yeah,
OG.
double OG. I
Yeah.
expected that.
Now
With
this one
everything we
is
said about
tough. The
VP.
next one.
Oh, Pain Namiga. I'm a big fan of the Pain Boys. We have kept praising them, but for the issues that we already outlined, I just think Namiga is going to be the team adjusted, loud, proud, happy, and ready for this fight. Like this is something that will suit Namiga. That they've got this land experience now, that they made it through to the stage 2.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I just love the name Risky Bob. I
The
think
best
it's a
name in
brilliant
Counter-Strike.
name.
I wish I came up
Risky
with that name.
Bob, man. It's so
Risky Bob, by the way,
trolly.
who doesn't play that risky.
Yeah, but it's such a good
Uh,
name.
Where
Uh,
you going though? Who you picking?
I think it's a tough one. But I'll go with the Mega.
Okay,
Yeah,
Namiga. You're going Namiga as well. Furia, Lin Vision. I'm on Furia.
yeah, I'm going Fury as well. I think there's a lot of positives. I think they probably could only go better. I hope
Yeah.
that's the case, but it feels like that's the case. So I all respect to Envision for even making it to this stage. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd say they didn't have the strongest opponents on their path there,
To go
and
up
I think
against. True.
they're going
Again,
to
NRG is your
struggle.
qualifying game.
Yeah, I think they're going to struggle in stage 2, and I think Fury
Yeah.
is too much.
True. Very true. This one, MIBR Legacy is hard because Legacy have been leveling up, but MIBR, we haven't seen them in action since Astana, but on paper, I give it to MIBR. I am going to predict MIBR, but I feel like this is such a coin flip one. I don't have much confidence in who can take this. And it is
I
going to
think
be a
it is a
loud
coin
match.
flip, so I'll take Legacy for the spiciness of this content.
Yeah.
And we'll finally have like a real competition of the predictions
Yeah, finally.
where we're
You're not
not
just
just
copying me.
following each other.
And then last one, M80 versus Tyloo. Tyloo.
Tyloo.
I told you I lost confidence in M80, so I just can't see it, man. Even if I like some of the players on that team, it's a yikes for me.
And how can you
It's a
not
yikes for
predict
me.
Tyloo after that G interview? I don't
Oh
know
yes, I
what's
want more G makes me
yeah.
happy, and more Jam Young ownage. I'm all for that. Jam
I mean, he
Young,
did
greatest of
say
all time
who?
from China.
Who?
Who? Oh, if I do that first interview with M8, I'm gonna say, "What is your reaction to Tyloo asking who you guys are?
Have you introduced yourself?
have you yet told him who you are?
Yeah.
Do you know?"
And I don't think G meant any disrespect whatsoever. I literally think he just didn't understand either how they were pronouncing it, because they probably pronounce it way different. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so he just didn't. There was a language barrier for sure. But yeah,
Funny as
that's
hell though.
it.
Funny as hell. All right. Then lastly, we need to do our Pick-Ems. All right. As always, we're doing our all about Counter-Strike Pick-Ems for stage 2. We're doing our together Pick-Ems on this one. It's a bit
We
more
did
crazy.
get, without me changing from the first stage, we did
Mm-hmm.
get the silver one.
5. Okay, that's good. We got through. I got through my own personal ones as well, like this.
And that
So
is with
opening matchup was
Metasports, I think, predicted as. Wait.
0-3. Can you see them?
Yes, but they're not shown here. But we did
Yeah.
have Metasports there.
Yeah, you can click
Either way.
back and see it. No? Stage 1
Well, now
showed it. You can
they've.
tick a button.
It's just
No,
results,
no.
right?
Oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So 5 we had there.
Yeah.
Didn't get any 0-3s correctly.
No.
That's all right though. At least you did bait 3-0. That's what I did as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so Falcons, you said are beating bait. Are we putting heroic or phase to win?
Heroic or
I'm doing a
phase to win?
simulator. Yeah.
The simulator.
You want heroic, right?
I wanted
Yep.
heroic.
Okay.
But you can put
3D
phase too
Max
if you
Bet
want.
Boom. No, I'm putting heroic. I'm going with you. You're the bigger brain. Then we got 3D Max Bet Boom.
This one, whatever. This one, I think is a little bit of a flip.
Bet Boom. OG over VP.
Yeah.
Namiga over Pain or Pain over Namiga? Namiga, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Furia over Lin Vision. Legacy MRBR, still MRBR.
Let's
And
pick a
M80 losing to
MIBR for
Tyloo.
this one then.
Yep. Okay, then Falcons beat Tyloo. Furia beat Namiga or Namiga beat Furia?
Furia.
Furia. MIBR OG. OG.
Yes.
Heroic Bet Boom. Heroic.
Agreed.
FaZe Legacy. FaZe.
Phase.
3D Max Lin Vision. 3D Max. VP Bait. Oof. Bait.
Bait. Yes.
Yep. Pain M80. Pain.
Pain.
Cool. 3 O's then. So Falcons over OG.
Falcons.
Heroic over Furia. So our 2 3 O's would be Falcons and Heroic. Yep. Then our 0-3s. VP over Legacy. VP wins. Lin Vision M80. Oh.
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 Oh. I don't know. Is that an answer I can give?
That's so hard. Because I was going to put in my personal 0-3s. I was going to put both M80 and Lin Vision.
Yeah, me too. No, wait. I had M80 and I have to check my screenshot.
With what we're doing on this simulator, it would be
I haven't
Legacy, M80, or Lin Vision.
In my personal one, I had M80 and Lin Vision as well.
So who's gonna if they have to play each other? How do we get them playing each other? Something's okay. It is what it is. Lin Vision M80, Lin Vision M80. Bruh.
Well, let's say Lin Vision wins.
Okay. Then M80's out. Other games. 1-1. Bet Boom Pain. Best of one.
Bet
Bet
Boom
Boom?
Pain. I think Bet Boom, yeah.
Namiga 3D Max. One map. 3D Max?
Yes.
Okay. FaZe Tyloo.
Face.
Bait MIBR.
Bait.
Bait. Good. Okay. 2-1s. Bet Boom FaZe.
Face.
Good. Furia 3D Max.
Furia.
Cool. Bait OG. They played each other once already. What was the score?
It was pretty stompy from
Best of one.
Bait on Inferno. I
It was
remember.
just one map, right?
Yeah. I think Bait won pretty big.
13-9.
But it was
Let's
a
put
big
Bait going
lead, I
through.
think.
Yeah, let's put Bait going through. Namiga, Lin Vision.
Namiga, Lin
Namiga.
Vision. Namiga.
Tyloo Pain.
Tyloo Pain. Tyloo Pain. Tyloo.
VP MIBR. Oh, didn't they play against each other?
MIBR. Ooh.
They played against each other recently. No? Am I crazy?
I don't know. I'm not
Okay,
so. Am I?
VP
I'm not
lost
so.
2-1.
I'm not pilled on anyone here. But I'll. Maybe I'll say MIBR based on nothing.
Okay. Based on nothing. Then the last games would be Bet Boom, MIBR, Bet Boom,
I think it's a tight one, but we can take Bet Boom.
OG Namiga, OG,
OG,
3D Max Tyloo.
3D Max, Tyloo.
Personally, I'd pull Tyloo.
Tyloo, let's go G.
Let's go, G. Okay, so our 3-0s on this would then be Falcons Heroic. Our 3-1, 3-2 would be FaZe, Furia, Bait, BB Team, or Bet Boom Team, sorry, OG Tyloo.
Wait,
And our 0-3s would be
I'm way too tired to go through it
you're
that
slow.
fast. Face,
Okay. 3-1, 3-2, FaZe, Furia, Bait.
Face, Furia, Bait.
And then Bet Boom, OG Tyloo.
Bet Boom, OG, Tyloo.
And then 0-3 would be Legacy M80.
Legacy, M80.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be our picks.
Yeah.
It seems pretty
Doesn't look
reasonable.
so bad. Yeah.
We're gonna
A lot
save
depends on
this.
that phase.
Face heroic start.
Because like, let me just reset. Reset this. Change if yeah, if phase win, how much does this change?
Probably a lot.
Yeah. I'm just doing it all again.
Just waiting for the results of banks here. Going through the Swiss.
I'm doing it all myself. Our editor can skip through things on this.
Are
You
you just
always
going
get
through the
M80 Lim
entire
Vision.
bracket? You always get
Yeah, you always
M80.
get M80 Vision, even with the heroic one changes.
All right.
So M80 seems like a safe 0-3.
It was the first. I'd put Falcons in my 3-0 personally first, and then I put M80 on 0-3.
Yeah. Basically, phase or heroic will be 3-0. From what I'm doing anyway, from how I'm pissing
Yeah,
around
yeah.
with this.
Well,
I like what we've done though.
all right. So then this would be it.
Yep.
Save all
Well,
picks.
that takes us to the end of it all.
Yeah.
Save all picks. See if you want to believe in that, mate. Wait and watch the magic unfold. It all kicks off tomorrow. Blast TV, Austin Major, Stage 2. Again, for everyone watching, the energy was not as high as our normal podcast level. We're trying to crank this out no matter what for you guys, even though we're literally starting the major again in 12 hours from now, my time.
Yep. I think it's the highest amount of energy I could possibly have. I tried to drink as much
You did well.
coffee, caffeine, and stuff to really make sure I was even awake.
Well, I need to go prepare for my interview questions for tomorrow as well and get ready for that. I'm starting on the morning shift of all the opening best of ones. It'll be fun.
I'll do some housework in the morning and then I'll tune into the major at night.
Yeah, at least you actually got good timing. It's nice timing. You only missed like maybe the last couple of games.
Uh, I mean, I think actually stayed up every single night until the
Good
last game has
man. It's the
ended.
major. You should.
So, but it hasn't been. I think the first day was the worst because
Yeah.
with the best of ones and they redrawing it, it became a much
On the break in
later.
between.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it became much
Yeah. After
later
that, it's
than the
not too
best of
bad.
threes. It has not been as bad for the best of three series. I think the most of the last games have started around like 23.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's not
most of
too
them have
bad.
ended at around 1 or something like that.
Did we have
So
any
it
viewer
hasn't been.
questions in the Discord?
Let me have a look.
Q&A? No,
No.
none.
Hooksy, how
That's
much do you
actually a good
bench?
thing all the time. That's a late one.
Yeah.
That's the wrong one. All right. Well, with that, we are done and dusted. We're out of here. Episode 15. Again, we apologize for the less energy than normal. We'll be back at full strength for the next one between stage 2 and 3 because you get a day break in between all of that. And we'll try and crank out as much as possible. Hopefully, I'll be able to grab us a guest at that point as well. Maybe one of the ones that went from the 3 zeros or something like that. We'll get chatting to people. But either way, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. By the way, we're always reading the comments on YouTube, for example. So if you do want to talk to us there, do that. If not, head to allaboutcs.gg/Discord and join the Discord as well. And enjoy the major. Have fun and stay safe.